for that short and sweet introduction. Otherwise, it goes on and on. I'm always worried whenever I go for sessions because introductions take away half of your time. Always a pleasure to be back at DME. Great to see my dear friend and I would say fellow journalist, fellow academician, Dr. Ambrish Saxena, who has been setting new benchmarks in media education. Again, another friend, Dr. Sushmita Bala. I also see some of my former colleagues, including Dr. Krishna. I also see a lot many all esteemed faculty members of Delhi Metropolitan Education, an institution with which I have been associated for a pretty long time now in various capacities. And immediately after this session, I will be associated in a different new capacity altogether. So always a pleasure being there, and I have known Ambrish ji since his days at IP University, and we have worked. Of course, I've known him even when he was in media, but we have worked together. We have very close, circle of friends, and so always a pleasure. And DME has been doing exceptionally well, and ICANN has become a must-attend platform for all media educators. It's a must-attend event in the annual calendar of I think all of media education, because he brings on the table media faculty from across the world with all their vast experiences, and this is something that in India we all look forward to. So congratulations to DME, the management of DME, and the faculty for organizing this wonderful events. As Dr. Saxena mentioned, since my days as IMC DG, we have been associated, and this time also we are a knowledge partner, the Makhanlal Chaturvedi National University of Journalism. I have been given a topic. Perhaps some of you may think that this is a topic which media schools across the country have discussed ad nauseum, COVID and pandemic, but this is not the topic. The topic is changing dynamics of journalism and its impact on society in the wake of COVID-19. Based on my own over 3 decades of experience as a journalist and as a media educator, I would like to share some thoughts here with me. I'm sure most of you are highly qualified and experienced, and perhaps you would be having better ideas, but I thought that I should discuss some of the relevant points which I think are now becoming very clearly visible. The changes that I see in the media scape, so to say, in the country. Now, I don't want to get into statistics. That is one thing I avoid. One, statistics keeps changing with every reference, with every, and secondly, they are easily available on Google. So, I don't want to engage in a statistical exercise here. I want to focus on the brass tacks, so to say. So to begin with, please remember that there is a big impact in the sense that we have seen infodemic in a big way. This has caused a lot of problems, not just in India but across the globe. And from the United Nations Secretary General to the UNESCO Director General, the world over, people have raised their serious concerns about this overdose of information, and primarily attributed to digital media, social media, as a result of which it has always been there. Misinformation, disinformation, fake narratives, fake content, but the kind of proportions that it has assumed is immense, and it is directly having an impact on individual health. Now that is the biggest concerns. There have always been, we right from the Goebbelsian propaganda, during, uh, you know, Nazi Germany, to, we have been hearing about propaganda and all that stuff, wars, psychological warfare, which during the Cold War we saw at its peak between the United States and the USSR, the Soviet Union, and we keep seeing that keeps happening all around. But what is much more important here is that most of them were political in nature, ideological in nature, with a specific agenda, or even economic. But the biggest change that is seen is that most of this fake content, disinformation is related to public health. Now that has led to serious concerns. Let me give you an example. Last week, in the last Sunday, every month you have the Prime Minister, talking about, his Man Ki Baat program is there. The seriousness of the issue can be gauged from the fact that the Prime Minister spoke to a villager in my own state of Madhya Pradesh, in Betul district, and he was surprised that the villager was saying that he did not vaccinate himself, and many villagers were not vaccinated. Now, this is because of concerns which have been discussed extensively in social media, and as a result of which there is a vaccination hesitancy. Now, I am a personal witness to this during the polio, the Pulse Polio campaign. As a member of the World Health Organization Communication Review Panel, there were very strong, pockets in Western Uttar Pradesh, in Hooghly, in Bengal, where you had polio resistance, and these were aided and abetted even by the local media, now, and I'm talking not about, at that time there was not much impact of social media or anything like that. I'm talking about print media, language media, which was spreading gossip, rumors, and the same kind of things are now being spread about this vaccine also. And please remember that this is not confined to semi-literate or illiterate population. The other day I was listening to a leading doctor from Bangalore, and he was mentioning that in his upmarket hospital in Bangalore, Bangalore's Whitefield, you had affluent people, residents all around, and they were not getting themselves vaccinated. I know of journalist friends who have not got themselves vaccinated. All kinds of theories are there, and in this scenario all kinds of rumors are flying thick, about its efficacy. You had stories about how, quoting a Nobel laureate, how within 2 years of the vaccination you will die, and all that stuff, which were going viral. Now this is a disinformation in which, because we are talking about the impact of media, what we see. Now this is a result, I would say, the massive propaganda by a deliberate anti-vaccinator lobby, and also people who are doing it out of mischief, and many people who are doing it out of ignorance. So all kinds of people are there. Now the result is that vaccine resistance is there, and that's not just impacting the patients, the individuals, but also because they are not getting themselves vaccinated, they are impacting their neighbors, they are impacting their villagers, their fellow residents in cities. So this is going to have an impact. So on the one side you have a vaccine shortage, what we say that in many parts vaccines are not available. On the other hand, you also see a hesitancy for vaccination. So much so that even the Prime Minister had to speak to the villagers in his Mann Ki Baat. So this is a global concern. Now, there are two things which come out of this, and one is positive and the other is negative. The negative story is that obviously it is wreaking havoc with the health of the people at large. And the positive story here and positive trend in journalism is that for the first time in post-independent history, if I may say so, media is now focusing on health and education as never before. I look at it as a ray of hope. We have always been complaining that health is only when there is a scam, there is a national health mission, rural health mission scam or something like that. If there is a big scam or there is a problem in Medical Council of India, or if there is any, anything, a kidney racket or something like that. Otherwise, health has always been the last priority. Except few established newspapers, media houses, health is something that has never been given importance. Because I have always been very passionate about this subject, because during my tenure as Director General at IIMC, we, along with Thomson Reuters Foundation and the Oxford University and UNICEF India, designed India's first critical appraisal skills program in public health communication. Dr. Krishna Pandey is here. She was very much part of that, and we implemented it. We trained our faculty, we trained our students, we made it a part of our curriculum. And not only that, we trained health journalists from leading newspapers including Amar Ujala, Dainik Jagran, Dainik Bhaskar, institutions such as Manu in Hyderabad. This has been an ongoing process, critical appraisal skills program, and the entire focus was on evidence-based reporting. That was always the... Now, there is an increasing awareness about health. People are concerned. Now, this is the biggest thing. It has not come as an initiative from the media. It is a result of people's enhanced interest in health-related reporting. Because in the aftermath of the infodemic, people are looking for reliable health-related content. They want credible information, trustworthy information. So they are looking for, so a large number of media houses are now, you would see if you look at the content, if it was 80, other content and 20 health, even 20 is too much. Today it is the other way around. I mean, in fact, if you pick up the paper right from front page to the inside city pages, it's all about health. Health facilities, the state of, even they are going to the villages, they are going and getting reporting. I'll come to that. So, about the state of primary health centers, the facilities, the infrastructure available, the availability of medicine. You discuss, every television channel is a day in and day out discussing the impact of plasma therapy, black fungus, white fungus. You have never seen, a health, there were many channels which never had a health program, except the ones for which I and Amrish ji worked for, that is Doordarshan, good old Doordarshan. Only we had a health program. Earlier health program, other channels never had health programs, health discussion. But today in channels you only see health programs, health related queries, health related discussions. I see this as a positive impact. While infodemic is negative, this is a positive trend that you see in journalism, which has a direct impact on the society. People are becoming increasingly aware of health issues. They are concerned about their fitness. They are concerned, in fact, to the extent that, I was reading this, joke which was widely circulated, that this man starts his day with juices and kadas and, with all the vitamins and the capsules. And then towards the end, he gave the entire list of things that he would take, hot water, this, that. So much so that at the end of the day, somebody asked him कि क्या अमर बनने का इरादा है क्या? That is, are you going to become immortal by taking these foods? So this is the kind of preventive. People are into yoga, into you just, so there is a greater awareness about health issues. This is a very important impact on the society which I see. Another impact that I see is that with the closure of schools, colleges, educational institutions, which have impacted almost all of us in one way or the other, the onset of online education in a big way, education is an area where there is so much of focus. Have you ever heard in the last, 50 plus years, I can only remember that much because that is my age group. So, have you remember an occasion when the Prime Minister chairs a meeting on a CBSE examination? Now, whether the CBSE examination should be conducted or not. Now, this is the kind of importance suddenly education has acquired. In between, the national education policy came in between. So COVID times, the focus on education, we have always been talking that in this country, so many commissions have recommended 6% allocation of GDP to higher education, of education. And we have been lamenting it has never been, the NEP proposes that. But the coverage of education was not even 6%. And today it is 30 to 40%. Today every educational activity, whether exams, what will happen to the future of the students, what happens to them. The digital divide that we all talk about, it is occupying so much of space. Online education, for the last consecutive 3 days, I've been watching on different channels how people are going to the edge of the village, near the, telecom towers to get signal. They are climbing up mountains to get signal, and that's the challenge that they are facing. So you are not just, and these people are having smartphones, but in their area there is an limited accessibility to internet. So what happens there? So there are these issues. So gadget is an issue, internet accessibility is an issue. There are media stories that I see which talk about how after migration you have students who have who had to drop out of school education, particularly girl children. They never, hope to go back to school. These are tragic stories, which is the result of this online, because they don't have the gadgets, they don't have the wherewithal. So the best thing they have opted for is that they have gone back to the agricultural farms. Now, it is being talked about, it is being discussed. So I see this emphasis on education, on health, as the impact of COVID-19 on journalism, and its impact on society. Because the more awareness that we get to know about education, I think that enlightens us further, makes us aware of the challenges before education, prepares the youngsters for the future. What are the challenges that are available? So all kinds of these stories are, there. Now, this is, one can go on and on this subject. A very important aspect of, journalism that I have seen, I'll come to, because generally in discussions, I find that, you discuss only technological changes. I will come to that. That is also important. But for me, I have always said, and I say that, irrespective of technological changes, content is, and content will always remain the king, queen, prince, princess, whatever you call it. Content will always have the importance. And I am talking about content, how content-wise changes have taken place. Because technological changes, yes, they are taking place. But in terms of content, how we are looking at the trends that we see. An important aspect is, what I see is, investigative journalism. It has made a comeback. I'm really happy to see so many media platforms, media houses, particularly language media, newspapers like the Bhaskar. I have no preference for any particular paper, But I'm just saying, the way they have been ferreting out data, they have been going deep into statistics provided by state governments, district authorities with regard to death, casualty, and all those figures, even with regard to vaccination figures, everything. People are going deep into them and trying to get and as a result, what has happened over the last few weeks, you have seen many state governments revising their data with regard to the deaths in COVID, and there, of course, they have their own reasons to quote, including that they could not reconcile the state district level data with the state level data and stuff like that, and it takes time because of technological handicaps and stuff like that. But the fact is that channels have been kind of doing a lot of this stuff, wherein data journalism is being extensively used. Even government data is not being blindly trusted, whether it is state governments or central government or anything. They are further going deep, citing several other data, matching data. So there is a data analytics which is going on. Now this is something which I believe is very critical and which is very important. It's going to gain salience in the coming days. This is something that we should look forward to. Another trend that I find very interesting, because we are talking about changing dynamics of journalism, is that there is a going back to the roots kind of feeling that I get. We have all been saying that now we are into the era of desktop journalism. Google search, I used to say that Google search has replaced ground reporting, so there is no research that's happening. Now what I see is that today media is going back to the ground. You will see the most senior most journalists going back to villages, and the rural areas has once again started hogging the limelight. Earlier, I can quote so many statistics, including the famous quote by P. Sainath in his Everyone Loves a Good Drought, wherein he says that to cover the farmer suicides in Vidarbha, you had just a handful of accredited correspondents as against the hundreds of correspondents who had queued up to cover the Lakme India Fashion Week in Mumbai. So those were the days. But today you see a radical change, because today you see a lot of people going back to the villages, trying to find out how the reverse migration, from the urban to the rural, how it has impacted the local society, economics of the society, how what is the state of employment generation, what is the state of public health in the rural areas. These things are today being covered extensively, as against the earlier thing of covering a village only when there is a farmer suicide or there is a protest or some accident. Otherwise, so our priorities were different. The priorities are changing now. So you would see more of developmental journalism. Something that has prompted me, an educationist like me, to start a rural journalism program from my Riva campus in Madhya Pradesh. So from this year we are launching the rural journalism program, because when I see trends happening, I immediately implement it, and that is where I am coming to the next trend that I see. So rural journalism is gaining salience. Today more and more people are reading, watching, and listening to news and content in their respective languages. Now languages are growing, and this is a trend that has been visible for pretty long now. You have more and more media houses who are launching language channels, language newspapers, and that is something that you find is very interesting in this entire thing. Language, and perhaps again, that is a trend which I started seeing very visibly in during my tenure at IMC, and when we launched the Marathi journalism program from our Amravati campus, the Malayalam journalism program from our Kerala campus, and the upgraded the Urdu into a full-fledged postgraduate diploma program. So because we felt that there is a growing demand, growing market for language. So today your language skills, if you are multi-skilled, that includes language skills. If you are equally good, today employability depends to some extent, on your language ability, your linguistic ability. So if you are a linguist, or if you can talk 2-3 languages fluently, if you have command, you stand a better chance for a job in a media platform as against a unidimensional approach. So language skills. So language is something that is clearly, even during this pandemic, we saw more and more platforms coming in the languages. That is something very important, that trend that we need to see. I also want to point out that, as I said, because of concern about health, fitness and stuff like that, somehow I find, and this is a result of the societal demand, people have become more conscious about, as a result of this pandemic, life has become much more uncertain for people. Of course, it has a psychological impact. But in terms of media and consumption, how I see it is that people who had a unidimensional approach to life, if they are interested in politics, they are only interested in politics. If they are interested in cinema, they are only interested in cinema. But today, they feel that पता नहीं कब तक है यार जिंदगी. So far so good. अभी तक तो कोरोना से बच के रहा. अब बाकी जो लाइफ है थोड़ा और अपने को बैलेंस चलना. People prefer to be with their families more today. People are spending quality time. Their entertainment or news consumption patterns have changed, because they are no more taking life very casually as they used to take. Life has suddenly become very precious, which needs to be preserved and nurtured. Suddenly people are finding time for their families. Those small moments, they are finding to cherish. That, well, ज़्यादा कुछ रखा नहीं है, जब तक हैं खुश रहो, मस्त रहो. That is the kind of approach suddenly people have started happening. किसके पीछे पड़े, किस रेस में पड़े, छोड़ो, अपने को लाइफ में और भी चीजें. I know of journalist friends who have lived all their lives in metro cities, and suddenly they say ki, we are okay going back to our towns. We are going back to our. Only yesterday I met a journalist who said that enough, my wife is working somewhere else, my parents are somewhere else, let me go back. I want to be with them. Can you help me in exploring some job opportunities in Bhopal, wherein I can bring my family and we can live together. Suddenly a sense of insecurity of, people are looking for comfort zones, and that has impacted education also. In the sense that today, for example, I am getting more of students from my neighborhood rather than other states, because people are preferring to send their kids to nearby schools and colleges rather than in distance. So in a way, the students in my neighborhood who used to go to different places across the country are today coming to my college. And on the other hand, students who used to come from different colleges, different states, are now preferring to go to their own respective states rather than coming to my college. Now this is a change that is seen, in sense of insecurity. Now this has resulted in changed consumption pattern. People are looking for customized content with regard to their requirement, whether it is entertainment, whether it is spirituality, whether it is travelogues. People think that I need to listen to what I want. Now that is a driving So it's no more about talking about everything, it's about, and that is where technology is coming to play. And that is where artificial intelligence is playing a big role. Now, AI, using AI technologies, you find today there is an effort to provide customized content to the readers. In my inaugural address at the ICANN, I spoke about some of the technology like Cyborg, which is being used by even transnationals, including Bloomberg. And also I referred to my weekly edition, published by the New York Times for, readers of New York Times who want customized content. They are all AI driven. Now, so AI is being extensively used, and that is having an impact on the in the society, in the sense that people are now getting content which they want to read and see, watch. And on the other, you also have, content which is being offered to you as alternative content, which can give you, new information, information which is more, relevant to you. And here comes a very important thing. Video consumption obviously has been growing in this country, and it has only grown by the, so this, what is happening is that every media house is today focusing a lot on video content. Even digital platforms, text content which has primarily focused on text is now focusing on videos. Now, as a result of this, the impact is that today even the illiterate and semi-literate are getting exposed to a variety of content thanks to video content, for which they don't need language skills. They only have to listen to, watch, so they don't need to read. So it has led to, I would say, democratization of the consumption patterns. So earlier, consumption of news was confined to people who have, who can read newspapers, or who have the ability to have a television set with a cable connection at home or a DTH connection at home. Today, anybody having a smartphone is having access to this high quality content. And that has led to both, one, awareness on the one hand on different issues, and on the other, infodemic. They are also becoming victims of fake content, misinformation, disinformation. For that, we need a media literacy mission at the national level. We need to inculcate right from the school curriculum. We need to inculcate that, because there is a growing exposure right from school children. We used to prohibit them from having mobile phones. In the classrooms, we used to ban mobile phones. Today, we are encouraging them to use mobile phones. It's having impact on this media consumption, that is also media, online. This media consumption is impacting not only their physical health, their psychological health, their social health. I have seen children in my own family, immediate family, my relatives, children who used to be very active players, very active dancers, very active artists, have got hooked to smartphones and laptops like anything, and today they prefer to spend all their time at home with their gadgets rather than go out and play, because we stopped them from playing outside because of corona, and they have got so much used to it that today they have got addicted. I think the day is not far, we used to hear about boot camps in Korea, de-addiction camps, to de-addiction not for drugs but for mobile de-addiction. I used to hear that in the United States, NRIs would go for a Sunday vrat, and vrat is not about food. Vrat is a mobile phone vrat, where they won't use the mobile phones. That kind of fasting that they won't use one day free of mobile phones. That is something that they would say. Now, this exposure is impacting the society. because you are not just getting school curriculum content, but you are also getting a lot of cyberbullying, a lot of pornography, a lot of other stuff which are really harmful for the physical and psychological health of the children. Are they ready for that? So, is parental guidance possible? To what extent when the internet is accessible? Now that is something as a society we have to ponder over. We need to look at. Now, because there is the dark net which is there, let us face it. So, now technology, lastly, couple of just points. I think I need to speak till 11 o'clock. So I'll try to wind up. Technologically, mobile journalism is something that I see has advanced like never before. And this COVID-19 has only accelerated it. I would say it has accelerated, technology has been accelerated the way demonetization accelerated digital payments in this country. I mean, till few years it was unthinkable that you will have a Panwala will have a Paytm account. So today you have a QR code outside every pawn shop, and you can give your, if you don't have chiller, you can always give him 10 rupees or 20 rupees through Paytm. Now this was unthinkable few years back. Today, thanks to COVID-19, in a way, we are making payments, no cashless payments, more and more cashless payments, even when we get a Domino's pizza at home, when there is a home delivery. So this is a result of that technology. Now, why I am mentioning this is that, we are looking at a scenario where, now in the next few days you will get to see the Rath Yatra in Puri. I remember last year vividly how a very few people were allowed entry into because of the COVID situation, and around that those grand three Raths of Bhagwan Jagannath, Balabhadra and Subhadra, I could see small drones of television channels which were hovering around those chariots, and they were covering live the Rath Yatra for the benefit of the devotees. Now, how technology, which is very simple technology, but it can have vast potential. You see in marriage parties, drones being hovering around you over the baratis. And you also see drones which were used to attack, in Jammu, a terror attack was carried out. The same drone technology can be used extensively, and during this COVID period, the containment zones, the isolation zones, all these were covered by a lot many channels using drone technology. Now, this is how technologically drones, more and more gadgets are being used. As I said, mobile journalism, Mojo has gained, because they found it really difficult to send camera people to different parts. So stringers who had mobile phones, smartphones, there are many examples of how channels utilize the services of freelance journalists. My own students at my university, they use mobile phones. Recently we had an MP Maha vaccination day where, a call given by our Chief Minister. Our state made a record of sorts of, getting 15 lakh people vaccinated on one day, single day. Now, I remember that we also wanted to contribute to that. And within few hours, my students produced 200 videos promoting vaccinations, and some of those videos were tweeted by the Chief Minister himself. They were so good, and they were produced from local areas by my students using their smartphones. They were so creative. So Mojo has arrived following this pandemic. because the entire online education, the teaching, even in electronic media classrooms, the studios, the editing, everything was done on mobile phones. As a result, during this entire period, you also see a massive rise in YouTube, on YouTube platforms. And of course, during this period, we also saw how apps like many Chinese apps, including TikTok, were banned. And then it led to a lot more focus on YouTube. And YouTube, I mean, every second person has a YouTube account, and they are putting out stories. They are putting out, beautiful stories, very interesting stories. Yesterday also, one of my students from IMC came to meet me in Bhopal, and he told me that, he runs a YouTube channel along with his job, and it talks about current issues and how it is growing. People are now engaged with that channel. So everybody talks passionately about YouTube, which, because people got a lot of time to be at home and they were unable to do much, they were not able to go out, so they went for these YouTube channels. Friends, I stick to my deadline always. Having been a television journalist, we are used to even read out a 5-minute news bulletin. So to cut short, I know that there are still many aspects which one can throw light upon, but I would be happy to discuss these in the Q&A that would follow. But for the time being, I would say that for me, yes, technological changes, yes, AI, and let me tell you that the day more and more technology comes in, Indian media platforms will be quick to adopt them. They are not going to be too concerned about the human aspect, about employment opportunities, because even COVID period, you saw a lot of layoffs, a lot of people losing their jobs, as a result. So technology would be adopted, but it is for us in media schools to equip our students for the new age journalism. Are they multi-skilled? Are they multitaskers? Can we prepare them to face the onslaught of technology, which is changing with every passing day? That is the biggest challenge before us. But with that rider, that technological upgradation and technological skills alone won't do. Yes, podcasts, Mojo, you talk about it, and I mean, there are n number of platforms, n number of new technologies coming up, but content will always be the king, queen, prince, princess. So we have to focus a lot on content, and content is not just about customization. Content is also about social issues. Content is also about talking about the underprivileged, the downtrodden, the marginalized. Content is also about ensuring that media continues to be the voice of the voiceless. Thank you so much.